Hey, I think you're sweet.
Now you've started something.
Brownie points don't count, man. No.
Freeze tag.
I love it. Oh my goodness. You guys are going to give me such a big ego.
But yeah, thanks for being here, Don. I would definitely appreciate it. I think maybe I'll just call you Sour to be on the opposite side of it.
There you go. There you go.
It's all about balance.
That's okay. I like sweet tarts.
Yeah, so do I. They're awesome.
Starbursts, yeah.
So
Okay.
A quick question to Dawn is, how long do you guys prepare for a new set of rules? Like, are you starting right away again for 2022?
We've already put some rule suggestions in the hopper for 2022.
Yeah.
We start the process in late April.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I logged it this year. I've had over 173 hours working on the rules this year.
Oh, wow.
So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. And divorce attorneys are sending us little Christmas calendars, so I don't know who my wife's talking to, but
So Don, so from all of the VIP community, let's say thank you to Mrs. Don. Okay, so everybody, thank you, Mrs. Don.
Yes. Don't leave me. Please stay with me.
Kenneth, what's that thing on your head? Kenneth, what is going on up there?
I have a penguin tonight.
CJ, you got to up your game, CJ. You can't, come on.
Look, you kind of slacking.
Yeah.
Oh, CJ's going to get something.
Uh-oh.
I got 3 eyes if I need to bring them out.
Don?
Yes.
Hey, Don, nothing that has to do with that, but what do you have to do to become a certified ref?
Oh, goodness.
This one.
You have to kiss your mother-in-law.
You like
and
it?
You must like going to the dentist.
Okay.
Yeah. To answer that really quick, it's an application. There's a fee. You have to ref some matches, take the online tests, become a level 1, level 2, get assessed by somebody. Then once you pass your level 2, you're assigned a mentor. The mentor helps you. You do an ATS, advanced training session, which is kind of like an evaluation.
Can't hear anybody
Past
yet.
that, then you submit your request. I've passed everything. I want to do the
Stop the exam.
evaluation, and you go get evaluated. So that's the
And
process.
that application's on the USA Pickleball site, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir. Probably under officiating. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Appreciate the information.
Thank you.
My big question though, just
Wait, can I just jump in 1 second? While we're getting ready, I know that we're starting to stream to both YouTube and to Facebook. We will be starting right at 4 o'clock Pacific time. So in the meantime, some of the members of VI Pickleball are just asking Don a few questions. So go ahead. Sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to let everybody know what was going on.
That's cool. No, Don, I was going to piggyback on what Eddie was saying, with COVID and that going on, going out and officiating, what's the probability of that happening right now? Because I've looked at becoming a ref as well and looking through the process and what it entails, but it's like, how do you get to the matches and that if we don't really know where COVID's going to put us right now?
I mean, that's probably a very good question. I guess nobody knows the real answer. I will say this, though, this summer, at the Texas Open PPA event, which was the one that was sanctioned, we did have Byron Frezzo come in and do an evaluation. I know they did an evaluation last week in Newport Beach. So the evaluations are still happening.
Okay.
Has to be at a sanctioned tournament. So, I mean, everybody's wanting to play pickleball, but also wanting to stay safe. So it's still happening, even though COVID is a factor.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Kenneth, in British Columbia here, I'm taking the reffing course right now through Pickleball Canada, and we are doing it by Zoom, and we've had 3 sessions and we've got a couple more coming up. And then what they recommended, our head coach or referee, is watch the games on YouTube that are not a gold medal match, and turn the volume off, and you ref the game as if you were there and see how you do by the end.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's great for score sheet mechanics. I mean, getting the more you can get your mechanics to where you don't even have to think about them, the more you can focus on your job. And yeah, so that's a great thing. Every
Hey.
now and then I would probably turn the volume on just to make sure your score is right.
Yeah.
You don't want to get
Turn the clipboard the
two-thirds
right
into the
way.
game.
Yeah.
But I've got a forfeit. They're still playing. What are they doing?
Hey, if we can, just so everybody's got it, because I know we're going to go, we are live on YouTube and Facebook. We haven't officially started yet. We've just got members of our VI Pickleball community saying hello to Don. We'll be getting started in a few minutes. For members on the community who are in Zoom, if you're not asking a question right now, could you do me a favor? Could you turn off your microphone, please? That would be fantastic. You still have the ability, because later on when we ask you for questions, you'll be able to turn it on. But if in the meantime you could turn it off, that'd be great.
It's at CJ.
Thank you. You like those? I could not be outdone by Kenneth. I don't know. That's pretty cool though. I'm jealous of the penguin thing.
I'm sorry, CJ. I still got to go with Kenneth on this one.
Got more.
Ooh. We got
Is
another.
still the tag on it? Is that the tag on it?
Heck
Kenneth?
yeah.
On the back?
That's official.
Nice,
Okay.
nice.
This is dueling because we got another webinar on Tuesday. I got something even different.
All right.
I got more.
This is a bad bet for you, CJ. This is a bad play right here. It's like not gonna work.
Welcome everybody who's filtering in on both YouTube and over on Facebook. I see over on YouTube, we have the lovely Christy over in the YouTube chat, and we have Orlina and Lori over in the Facebook chat. So
Are we on
welcome, everybody.
Facebook? Wow.
We are.
Hey, Mark. Say hi to Mark on Facebook. I always had a Mark on Facebook.
They, you know what? They don't recognize us on Facebook, Tony. Nobody knows who we are over there.
No. Who are
But
these people? Who are these yahoos?
They know who this guy is. Say hi,
Yeah.
Don. Everybody knows who Don is on Facebook.
Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's bad. So
There's
Whoa.
no such thing as bad press, Don.
not unless you make an error in a match and then, then the whole world sees it. But what I do is I usually get on Facebook real quick and just admit that I made the error. So I kind of get ahead of it. And
Don, you're not allowed to be a human being. You got to be
That's
a
true.
machine, man.
that's true.
Yeah, refs always have the toughest job, I think, because it's basically a thankless job. If you do a perfectly good job, you're supposed to be like not even noticed, right? You're noticed usually when like, ugh.
Seriously.
That is
Yeah.
true.
You got the hardest job in pickleball there. You really do.
You
Good.
know, well, maybe being humble here. I think you do have. You must. I think you have to like it and enjoy it, because I know the game is being made better by quality officiating. So
That is true. That is true.
yeah,
Yep.
that's
Hey, just an FYI for everyone who is a VIP community, you will have this after we're done today. You're going to have a replay, and then you'll have the brand new spanking super duper, it's really finished this time rules change document, right, Don? That was the one you gave me like 10 minutes ago was the last one, right?
That's the one that got emailed last night to go to the printer, so to speak.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's
So
it. Yeah.
once it's at the printer, we know that. Now, for those of you who are on Facebook, we're going to get, and YouTube, because we're going to get started in just a minute. If you want to print off that document, they are our lovely ladies. Lori is going to put a link in the Facebook stream in the comments, and Christy is over in YouTube. She's going to put a link in the YouTube stream so that you can go ahead and you can print that off. And like I said, VIP members, you are going to have yours inside the community after we're finished today. Cool. Wow, it looks like the gang is all here. Man, nobody's interested in rules. I can't believe, Tony, that you had to twist my arm and tell me that people weren't going to be interested in rules.
Oh, I'm just a live and let live. I'm like a live and let live, person.
Oh, there's no more lets.
Yeah.
Can't say that. No more
What?
lets. So no more lets. So.
That's right. Live and let live. It doesn't work anymore.
It doesn't, no, you're not going to live this one down.
That's right.
A little internal joke. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get ready to get started. And here's the way we're going to be working things right now. If I can ask the members inside of the Zoom, all of our VIP members, it has been lovely to see you. We're going to see you a little bit later as well. But if I could I get you to go over and reach off and turn off your cameras right now as well? Cool. And we're going to have to go through and we're going to have to hide. All right, there we go. Okay. I think we're getting ready to go here, right? All right, so cool. Well, welcome everybody. As I said, nobody's interested in any kind of rules, right? For those of you who don't know me, I'm CJ Johnson from originally the Better Pickleball channel, and I'm now the co-founder with the gentleman on the bottom part of the screen. At least he's on the bottom of my part of the screen right now. Tony from Into Pickle. Wave, Tony, so they know the difference between you and Don Stanley. We are here to talk about pickleball rules, and I am happy to have my buddy, my friend, and the PhD of rules. Wow. You have forgotten more about rules than I am ever going to know, Mr. Don Stanley. Welcome, Don. Glad you're here.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here. I really am.
So Don we had the chance, Tony and I actually first met Don earlier this year during the summit, the virtual pickleball summit. That's the first time we met. Don was on the summit, and then he has since been both on Better Pickleball as well as the Into Pickle channels. And he had promised us that he was going to come on and do a rules seminar with our VI Pickleball members. And that was going to be on January 5th. And a few days ago, Don texted me and he says, it's coming out early.
Can we put out the fires? That's what it is.
And I'm like, no, okay, we'll do it. So like, here we are 2 days later. And so we are broadcasting this both to our VI Pickleball members and as well as to YouTube and to Facebook, because we just felt that this was such important information to get out to the whole pickleball community. Because I know that I was in the Facebook forum last night, and there's already a lot of questions and comments and lots of stuff going on. So we wanted to get this out as quickly as we can. Do want to say thank you, by the way, to our lovely, I call them the Vanna Whites of the chat, right? And everybody says, Vanna White? Yes, Vanna White. We got Dale, we have Christy, we have Lori, and we have Orlina helping us tonight. So ladies, thank you so much for doing that. The way we're going to work this tonight is, as I said, we have our VIP members here in the Zoom room. And then we have Facebook and YouTube. So what we're going to do is we've kind of broken this down into segments. We've got about 4 segments we're going to talk about. We're going to tell you that a little bit more about that in a second. But in between segments, we're going to take your questions. So we're going to take the VIP members' questions first, and they'll be putting those into the chat here in Zoom. And everyone else, you can put your questions into the chat in either YouTube or Facebook. Please do us a favor, put a Q in front of it, because those chats go like really quick and really fast, and people, it's hard for our gals to keep up sometimes. So please put a Q in front of it so they can recognize that it is a question, and we will try and answer as many questions as we possibly can. Do just want to put, if you are interested in a little bit more info about VI Pickleball, and we got something great for you, because we know you want to play great pickleball because you hear about the rules. We have 7 awesome tips to fantastic pickleball in 2021. The ladies are going to put a link in each of the chats. Feel free to grab that. That's our gift from Tony and I. Was that right, Dale? Tony and I, or Tony and me? No, Tony and me.
Tony and me it is.
Tony and me. Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Dale. That's our gift to you. So, all righty. I think I kind of got like, did I miss anything, Tony? Have I gotten the groundwork out of the way?
I think that's the good groundwork. I think, CJ, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. I want to lay out a little bit of framework on what we're going to do. I'm super excited to have you, Don, on with us. As you mentioned, I mean, Don is, the rules guru, and I spent yesterday and today going through I think it was 81 pages or something like that. And I read them all. And it was interesting stuff. I mean, some of the stuff in there is, some cleanup stuff, but some of the stuff in there is going to actually have an impact on non-tournament play and on tournament play. There's some rules in there that are really going to impact how we play the game. So, and obviously we need to understand the rules. So I'm super excited about tonight's webinar. So what we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask Don in a minute to give us like a general framework about kind of what the committee's thinking about, what how they kind of like their guiding principles, if you will, for the rules changes. Then we're going to talk about, we're going to break it down. So we're going to talk about the provisional alternate drop serve. We're going to look at that. Then we're going to talk about some general kind of rules changes that'll affect play that are outside of the drop serve. And then the third one, which is the one that everybody's losing their minds about out there, which is the no more lets, right? So we're going to talk about that one. We're going to get in deep on that one because everybody wants to talk about that one. And then the last section is going to be really interesting. If you're a tournament player, there are a lot of little changes that will be very impactful, at least in my opinion, as a tournament player, to how you strategize and play when you're playing a tournament. So we're basically going to go through all that. You're definitely going to want to stick around for that at the end if you're a tournament player. So Don, without further ado, if you'll just give us, just some general principles as to kind of the guiding principles that govern the rules thought process and the rules changes, maybe help the folks out there understand, why some of these changes were put in place in a general sense.
Okay, I'll do that, and I appreciate that. I think it is important to know how this all goes together, and I'll try to be brief and right to the point. I do want to say that this year there were we've published over 70 people involved. I can count over 100 people that were involved this year in the whole rulemaking process. There's a new pro player committee that was formed. There's coaching committee, profanity committee. There's a lot of people that are involved in this process. It's not just 5 people sitting in a room just coming up with stuff. I want to say my role is I'm the recording secretary. That's the title they gave me for the rules process changes. I'm the lowest on the totem pole. I don't have a vote on the rules committee, but I did most of the typing in the changes and the change document. So I'm very familiar with it. And if I say something odd, you can take it to the bank. If it's an opinion, I'll give you that. But back in April and May, we start with all the rules emails that are submitted. They go through a filter committee. They are voted on a range of 0 to 10. If the average is above 5, it gets sent on to the rules committee for their evaluation. They do get to see every rule, but the ones that are above 5, they say, here's the ones that we need you to vote on. Then goes to the rules committee. They vote on it and they pass them. They edit them. They change them. Then we fix that. Then we take it to the board. Same process there. So it starts back in May, starting to put this together and work on it. There's constant edits, even up until last night. But a lot of people, if you have a suggestion for the rules, I guarantee you, if you email Mark Pfeiffer for a rule change, your voice will be heard. Every email that comes in gets looked at and gets evaluated. So that's the process. It takes a long time. It's a lot of people involved, and it's a lot of work, but it's a labor of love. So is that a good overview?
I think that's fantastic. And I do want to say I took my ref training from Mark Pfeiffer, so hats off to him as well. He like Don said, he's as passionate about the rules as Don is, and so we really have some great people working on behalf of all of the players. So let's go ahead and jump into it. And I got to tell you, I have some notes. I'm looking at my notes because like 85 pages was like, oh my gosh, let's drink from a fire hose and try and figure out what is in here. So, certainly there's a few rules that people are buzzing about. And one thing that people are talking about certainly is the addition of the alternative, the drop serve. So why don't we just jump right in there? Let's start with that one. Why don't you give us a basic overview of that rule, Don?
Okay, so if you've been in pickleball for a while, you know that Steve Peranto has promoted this as an option for years. They finally looked at it and said, "Okay, we're gonna try it this year and make it." And you notice in the rule book or in the change document it says provisional drop serve. So it's on a beta test basis, so to speak. So it is allowed this year, and we're going to see how it goes. But what it is, It's basically this. You can hold the ball. The server has to, not the partner. The server can hold the ball as high as you can reach, okay? And then just let it fall out of your hand. The point is you can't, and I don't know if y'all can see my hand, you can't propel it downward to create more speed. But as high as you can reach, even on your tippy toes, you let the ball fall out of your hand, okay? The ball falls to the ground and bounces. It can bounce anywhere, inside, outside the court, does not matter. And here's the key phrase, but I know we're going to get questions on it. After that ball bounces, nothing matters but the feet. Okay. The current rules of, feet can't be touching the baseline or the court or outside the extensions. That's still the same. But as far as paddle above wrist, wrist above paddle, upward arc, contact and not above the waist, none of that matters. You can do a slicing, chopping, backspin, downward arcing serve if you want. Okay. So again, once that ball bounces, nothing matters other than the feet. Just make sure you're touching where you're supposed to. Also, you can switch at any time you want for the sake of this presentation, we'll call it the normal serve, right? Or the provisional drop serve. So I can do the drop serve one time, and the very next time I can do the normal serve. Okay. So that's it. The key factors are this: both the ref and the receiver must see the release of the ball. Okay. If the ref doesn't see it, receiver doesn't see it, it's got to be a replay. So we got to see the release of the ball. Okay. And as long as you don't propel it downwards, once it bounces, serve it, have at it. That's basically it. Now, another thing, somebody says, well, does it still have to be below the waist or not above the waist? None of that matters. If you drop it and you crouch down low, that ball could probably technically bounce above your waist. Go ahead and hit it. Nothing matters after the bounce other than the feet. So that's probably a good overview.
Okay, so that's a good start. So let me ask some specifics. These are some of the things that I've been asked in some of the questions that I have. Let's talk about that drop. Okay. What are the rules surrounding the drop? Like perhaps where does it have to happen? As well as, let's start there. Let's start where does it have to have it, as well as anything else about the drop that you would like us to know.
Okay, so the real quick bullet points are, you can't propel it downwards as high as you can reach. Let it basically fall out of your hand, roll out of your hand. Or I may as well cover this now. They are going to allow that Covert Serve where you can put the ball on the paddle, sling it up in the air, come around and serve it just on the serve. Okay. But even if you're holding the ball on the paddle face, just tilt your paddle, let it roll off. So it needs to fall naturally by gravity to the ground. Where does it bounce on the ground? Does not matter. On the court, outside the extension lines, does not matter. So as far as the release of the ball, and it needs to be visible to the ref and receiver, okay? Other than that, that's it. And the server has to do it. You can't have Jeff Warnick reaching up high and dropping the ball for Sue Wong to serve. So that's basically the concept of the release.
Okay, let's talk about that Covert Serve. I have a question real quick there because we've got somebody here who does it in our group. On that one, he actually is taking it and propelling it up. Is that allowed that the paddle gets to move up, or does that have to be a drop as well?
That serve is what we would call the normal serve. Like if I take my left hand and toss the ball up, that's what they're allowing, because technically by rule, doing that on the paddle face is an illegal carry. Okay. But they're trying, so they changed that rule this year. Now it says after the serve, blah, 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 illegal carry. Okay. So they're allowing you to carry that ball on the face of the paddle just so you can sling it up in the air so you don't have to touch the ball. Okay. So you can sling it up in the air like you would be tossing the ball up on a normal serve. Now, if you want to do the drop serve, you can put the ball on the paddle and you can raise it high as you want, but you have to let it roll off. For the drop serve, you can't propel it upwards or downwards. You can reach high and just let go, whether it's let go with your hand or roll it off the paddle face.
Okay, so we're talking really two different things, right? The one we're talking about, the Covert Serve, the old rules still apply to that.
Yes.
The drop serve are the new rules.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we've got that one. Now let's talk about, go ahead. It looked like you had something you were going to add.
I see a really good question here. Very pertinent. So let's say the ball bounces, okay? And you serve. Can the ball bounce twice and then you serve? Why not? There's no rule against it. I mean, it's just going to bounce lower, so it's going to make it harder to serve. But the point is, once that ball drops and bounces, you can let it bounce again. You can let it bounce. There's no limit to the number of bounces before you serve. Also, let's say this, and this is in the change document as of last night. Let's say a person is doing a drop serve and they propel it downward. It bounces and they go, oh, crap, I wasn't supposed to do that. They catch it and they raise their hand again and drop it legally and they serve. No fault. No fault.
Okay.
Because the first time throwing it downward, that could be just you bouncing the ball. So that's pretty much every aspect about the release. So
Okay.
And Don, sorry, CJ, but what I saw also was the thing about the drop was interesting, right? Because not only can you drop it as many times as you want, you can drop it, and then maybe hit it out of the air, whatever you want to do within the 10 seconds, right? Really, the only constraint is as long as you haven't exceeded 10 seconds from the score call, you can do whatever you want.
exactly.
All right.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just kind of looking at my notes. Now, let's talk about this. This is an alternative serve, right? This is not required, and you could mix up with the regular serve and this serve. Is that accurate?
That is completely accurate. You have two options this year. You can do one or both, switch them up anytime you want.
Okay.
It's going to be the Wild West out there, CJ. It's going to be like, drop it once, drop it, let it bounce 2 times, throw it in, whatever, boom. It'd be crazy. It'd be awesome. It'd be crazy.
So, one of the other things that, and you and I talked about this before I even saw the rules, you said this is provisional for this year. So what does provisional mean?
Originally, they didn't put the word provisional in there, but then they decided to do it to let players know and everyone know that this is basically a test for the next year. If it's accepted well and a lot of complaints and everybody likes it, then they'll probably make it a permanent. But I think it's the only time since 2015 that I've seen the rule book basically say, this is provisional. We're going to give it a try this year and see how it goes.
All right, cool. Tony, what questions have you got for Don? What did I miss?
Well, I had a couple little questions. I'm going to tell you, Don, my personal feeling about this. I'm still figuring out the whole thing about I can drop it 17 times or something, right? I mean, that's a little weird to me, but the concept of a drop serve, right, or a serve that is allowed to bounce. I know they're not calling it the bounce serve because of the propulsion part, but the bounce serve idea or the drop serve idea to me is a positive addition to the sport because it allows players who, especially when you're getting started and you're still learning the game, to bounce the ball and serve. It doesn't create a competitive advantage. So I'm a big fan of it. And I don't know if you know this, Don, but I have a video out there on service hips. My advice on the service hips is bounce the ball in practice, right? Just to, drop it, drop it so you get the rhythm of the serve. So I think I'm a big fan of it right now. But let me ask you this. So you talked about the sling serve, and I appreciate that. But one of the things that I found interesting, and it's not necessarily maybe the drop serve specific, but going to the serve, the same with the serve, is they removed the navel, right, from the rule. Like the rule used to be the waist is the navel. So I'm not really sure what the waist is anymore. Just the waist, I guess. But
let's see. I've got my own feelings about that, but to me, I'll be honest with you. I'm always going to be honest with you. I thought the navel was easier to detect, especially if someone has a little gut on them like me and wears a tight shirt. I can see that little circle of their navel. Sometimes I don't know exactly where a person's waist is, but they wanted to remove both words and just go with one word. So after talking, it seems that most refs felt like the waist was easier to define. So they just took the word navel out. Now it's just waist.
Would you agree the waist is a little bit lower than the navel? Like, are you looking as a ref? I mean, let me ask you this way. So put your ref, like when you're looking, are you saying, like, to me, it's not, but it's like 1.5 inches or 2 inches, I think. If I know what the waist is, I'm not sure,
I in my opinion, when I was voicing my opinion on this, to me, the waist is where, like on a man, it's where your belt would go.
Right.
Okay. Typically that's lower than the navel. Surprisingly, a lot of other refs felt like, oh no, the waist is higher than the navel. So 6 to 1, half a dozen to the others, my dad would say, and they just said, well, we're just going to go with waste. So,
All right.
here we're talking again for refs. I'll say this. I don't get bent out of shape on trying to really precisely, that was just above your waist. It has to be blatant for me to call it. So that's the main reason they allowed the drop serve to happen this year, is to now none of that stuff matters. None of that stuff matters. And we won't get any arguments or debates over paddle head above the wrist and blah, blah, blah. So that's the reason it was let in.
There'll be arguments, but it won't be about that anymore. So anyway.
Yeah.
CJ, I think we've covered it pretty well. You want to go to the board and see what we got going on out there question wise?
We are. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the VIP community and get some questions answered. And then I've got some texts coming in from both YouTube as well as Facebook. So I tell you what, Casey Parnell, can you unmute yourself, please? You can also take your camera off if you'd like and show us your face if you would like to do. There she is. Hello, Casey. So Casey, go ahead. Can you ask your question, please?
Yeah. So hi, Dawn. Thanks for answering our questions. So my question is being posed as someone who's fairly short. My initial thought on the drop serve was, I can't reach nearly as high as my friend Steve, who's 6'5" and can drop the ball from way up high. And wouldn't he end up having an advantage over me in the fact that when he drops the ball, it's going to bounce much higher, in theory? Now, I haven't tested that, but that's just what I was thinking.
Great question. They did talk about that, and the concept was this: a taller person is taller, but by the way, you're not short, it's vertically challenged. We don't say short. So a taller person has longer legs, right? So even though it's releasing from higher and will bounce higher, let's just say it probably bounces up just to mid-thigh, okay? So a shorter person doesn't bounce as high, but their legs are shorter. So let's say, after they've tested and looked at it, it all bounces up to about a person's mid-thigh. So that in that perspective, if it's going, let's just say it's going to bounce all the way up to somebody's mid-thigh, then I guess it's the same for everyone, no matter your height, because your body's longer. But that was discussed, and that was the thoughts on it.
All right.
The other thing, Casey, maybe to think about is like height wise, you're thinking about like a 6'5" player, the net's 34 inches regardless of your height, right? So the 6'5" player, even on the regular serve, will still have an advantage in terms of the trajectory of that ball going into the service box as opposed to a vertically challenged player, I guess.
Yeah, gotcha.
Thanks, Casey.
Thanks,
okay, Janice, you are going to be up next. If you can unmute yourself, and then Judy, you're going to be after that. So Janice, unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Okay, I just wondered if the Covert Serve will only be allowed as long as the pandemic continues.
Very good question. Well, it is a new rule. The rule change, and all it is this: it is the rule that says it's an illegal carry. All they did was add 3 words after the serve, and that now will allow the Sling Serve. Okay, so it's a rule for 2021. So unless it gets revoked in 2022, it's all year long. Nothing in the rule book or change document says as long as COVID is around. So they are the rules for the whole next year.
Cool. All right. So we got Judy coming in. Thanks, Janice. We got Judy coming in next. And then we've got, I think, Barry, you're going to be up after that. And Kenneth, you're up after that.
Hi there, Don.
Hello.
I'm just wondering, is there some criteria that's already defined that says whether we're going to make this permanent or not in a year?
There's no criteria. It was just it's out there as a test basis. If we have an uproar and people rioting over it, then my guess is they'll. I think they left it open by using the word provisional. My opinion is that if it just is causing people to have injuries, my big concern about the drop serve is this: if someone practices and does a slicing, chopping backhand serve, and it has backspin and just goes just beyond the zone into the service court, receiving court, is that going to really pull a lot of people forward? Now, on one hand, we don't want to pull people forward to the net, right? Generally speaking, but that's my big concern with this serve is it going to cause people to really rush and try and sprint up to the NVZ line. But my guess is with the word provisional, if it's causing injuries and it's just people are revolting and revoking their USA Pickleball membership, I guess they can just take it out if they want to. So,
Yeah, it sounds like it's based on player feedback.
Yes.
I did see some very interesting serves today with those back spins and side spins and undercuts, and it looks pretty wicked, but that could be part of the game. Thank you.
We shall see.
Thanks, Judy. So
Thank
we got you up next, Barry, and then Kenneth, if you want to come in after that, please.
Yeah, I guess on the same lines, it talks about deception, and you sort of alluded to that or clarified that the ball has to be dropped in full visibility. So if you are trying to do the backhanded slice, banana serve, or whatever you're going to come up with from that, if your opponent calls foul, what's the alternative there?
Well, let's talk about that for a second. If there's no ref, really the rule is that you have to see the release of the ball. Now, to be specific, let's say that I released the ball and you saw it, but as it's going down, let's say I jump in front of it and slice it. It doesn't say it has to be visible all the way to the ground. So just the release has to be visible. But if you don't have a ref and you didn't see the release, then I tell people all the time on Facebook, say, hey, they're calling the score too quick, or they're doing this too quick. Look, if you don't have a ref or it's rec play, just grab the ball with the receiver and throw it back and say, hey, I didn't see the release, or hey, you're serving before you finish calling the score, because neither one of you can enforce that fault on each other. So effectively you're at a stalemate until the serving team does, what you want them to do. So if it's no ref, just catch it, throw it back. So we can do this all day long until I see the release of the ball. So, but only the release has to be visible. So just the release.
Don, can I ask a question about that? Because the rule on the, if I recall correctly, like the rule on illegal serves is basically like we have a rule, but no one in non-referee games, like just there's no mechanism to call it, right? And it sounds like it's this. Is it the same on drop serves? Like basically, like I mean, you can catch the ball and say it was whatever you want to do, but it's just there's really no mechanism for like it's your job to call it or someone. It's just a thing.
And let's cover that pretty quick. The rules say there are two things I can call on my opponent. Call with an asterisk. Service foot faults, not service motion foot, service motion faults, service foot faults, and NVZ faults. But last year they added this caveat. Yes, you can call those on the opponent, and those are the only two that you had the right to enforce and say that is a fault. But if the opponent disagrees, then you just do a replay. So, yeah, I called that the rule with no teeth because I am calling a fault on you. What? You disagree? Well, it's just a replay. Other than that, other than making line calls on your side of the net, you can't enforce anything on the opponents. So if you think somebody's service motion is illegal, or if you think they're doing something wrong, you just have to go ask for a ref if you're in a tournament. If it's in rec play, it comes down to do you want to play with them again? So in a tournament, you can't enforce it. If it continues, just go get a ref. That's the only thing we can do. So
good advice.
Okay, Barry, we got your question answered, right?
Thank you.
All right, cool. You can shut off your video if you don't mind. Kenneth, you're in. And then Jill, we're going to bring you in next. And I think after that, we'll have all of the VIP questions answered. If not, please put it into the chat before we go elsewhere. So love the hat, Kenneth.
Hey, thanks. And Don, thanks for being here. And Tony and CJ for putting on. Mine is line calls. I love the fact when we talked before about the dime or the contact point, but I've read 46 through 50, and I'm not sure I'm any clearer about what clearly means as far as line calls. I mean, in the ref manual or even the player's manual, is it going to show where that looks? Because I get where angles look like, and someone directly above the ball could say it's in, but if you look at the circumference, there it is, it's in, but someone from an angle would say, well, look, the ball's out because they can see space between it. So I'm not sure I'm clear about what clearly means, and I was wondering if you could clarify that for me.
Hey, Kenneth, can we wait 1 second? Can I jump in here? Because that's a line call one, and I know that we're going to discuss that in a little bit.
Okay,
Can we I'd like to finish up with the serve if we could.
Yep.
Can we just skip
Cool.
that question?
Oh no, that's on my list too. So
Yeah,
I've got a pedicure in 30 minutes. So
I love you. Call me later.
Kenneth is a plant. That's why we gave him the nice penguin hat, so that he can take that away from Tony
All right,
and
I'm
I.
going off camera.
That's on our list too.
CJ, there's a question too from Molly. If you want to jump in here, she had I think a question that I think would help people kind of conceptualize the drop serve. So Molly, if you're still on, if you want to do the little unclicky thing.
Yep, Molly and Jill. I think we have 2 questions coming from. So.
Okay.
Okay. Am I unmuted? I'm not going to show you my face because I'm in COVID quarantine, so I'm in my jammies.
All right.
How did the refs get to this place? What is the reasoning behind just all these rule changes with the serve? And isn't it going to make it tougher for us refs? Basically, it just sounds like anything is pretty good.
And Molly, I'm going to modify the question a little bit. Don,
Okay.
I think, can you, what's the reason for this, the drop serve, the alternate provisional drop serve?
Yes.
Yeah. What was the reasoning for that?
Behind it.
This is my opinion, putting together everything I've heard and all the discussions. I think since it has been out there for a long time and had some momentum and traction, I believe that they said, okay, every year we hear this, and we're asking, why don't you try it? Why don't you try it? It's easier. It's easier. It's easier. Why not? Blah, blah, blah. I think they just, okay, we're going to try it this year. We're going to try it and see how it goes. That's my honest opinion. I think I would take that to Vegas, that they're just going to try it because it's constantly out there and been promoted and pushed. I will say this, as far as reffing goes, if they do the drop serve, I think it's way easier on refs because technically right now, if they do the normal serve, I have to watch your feet. And I have to tell upward arc. I have to watch your hand, your arm, and your feet. There is no way to do that. There's no way to do that specifically. What I do as a ref, I'll be quick here. If I notice somebody has a tendency to get their feet close to the line, I'll watch their feet. If I notice they have a tendency for the wrist to be above the paddle head, I'll focus on that. So with that said, if they do the drop serve, all I have to do is look down to the ground. As long as I see the release, okay, then I look at their feet. I don't care about anything else because nothing else matters. So the drop serve is going to be much easier to referee because all I have to do is see if they've stepped where they should have stepped. And most people don't fault with their feet, right? It's the paddle above the wrist, upward arc, contact above navel or waist. So I think it's going to be much easier to ref this one because all I got to do is watch feet.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Thanks, Molly. Okay, so let's see. We have Jill up next, and then we've got Ted and Gerard. So Jill, you go ahead. Ted and Gerard, you both get ready, please.
Okay, my question is there a competitive advantage to this type of serve? In other words, do you see a lot of the higher rated players jumping on this new serve bandwagon, and all of a sudden there's going to be all these new serves that, we're going to be dealing with?
I guess just to be real quick, I guess it's too early. I guess we'll see. We'll see this year how it goes. I do know that I remember Steve Pronto saying the reason he's promoting this is because it gets us away from all these debates and arguments. Oh, that was an illegal serve, or the other ref doesn't call it illegal. You do. It gets us away from that, really. As far as will it be used a lot, we shall see. So.
But players who have used it or experimented in the past, do they feel like it gives them some sort of competitive advantage or not? I've never tried it.
I've not heard that discussion at all.
Okay.
I have heard it's going to be easier for refs to call, which I agree with. So.
Okay.
I think I'm going to weigh in there and say we still haven't changed. You still only get one serve. So that part of it hasn't changed. Cool. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
All right.
Boy, there's a lot of good questions in chat too.
I know. Well, and see,
yeah.
those are the ones we're pulling off. So Ted, Hawaii, Ted, come on in. And then Gerard, you're going to be next. Oh, look at the background he has now. Oh, okay.
Come on, Ted. That's not fair.
I'm telling ya.
Yeah, but my first question is, when does it officially start? And my second question is, I've never heard of the swing or putting the ball on the paddle. How do you do that without touching the ball? I don't understand that what that means.
Okay, so the rules, even though they're being released now, people can get used to them, and this and that. They're going to go into effect. The last I heard, the 25th of January. There was usually going to be the 15th, but this year for some reason, they moved it to the 25th of January. That's when the 25th is when we will start using the 2021 rule book to enforce, for the rules. I have seen this, to answer the question about the COVID serve. I saw the lady that did it. She, like a tennis thing, she picked up the ball with her paddle and her foot and just kind of kicked it up in the air, right? And then she scooped it up on her paddle face, held it there, and then slung it up in the air. And as it was coming back down, she swooped around and served. So I have seen a way that you can do it without touching the ball. So that's the reason that's one way to do it. I mean, now it's going to be legal because they changed the rule that normally that's an illegal carry. You are intentionally keeping that ball on the face of the paddle. So, but because of COVID, people don't want to touch it, and it's just before the serve anyway. They just said, okay, after the serve is when the rule about illegal carries goes into effect. Meaning, before the serve, you can illegal carry now before the serve. Mm-hmm. So that allows this to happen. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. It's so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ted. We're coming. I'm telling you, this COVID thing's getting over, and we're going to Hawaii. Don, you don't know that yet, but we are going to Hawaii to visit Ted. We are already putting this together in our minds. We're just waiting for things to change. All right, Gerard and Susan, come on in. Unmute yourself and turn your camera on.
You get a twofer here, Don. It's Gerard and Susan.
I think Gerard has the question. Okay.
I know, but he has to see both of them.
But I can't start my camera. I'm not allowed to start my camera for some reason.
Do you have your pajamas on? Is that why?
No, the host has it stopped. The host has my camera stopped.
Okay, I tell you what, you start asking your question and I'm going to find you and we will get your camera on.
Okay, thank you very much. If I'm still want to do the normal serve, the only thing I know, does the paddle position have any bearing on the legality of that serve, or can I have the paddle anywhere now?
The normal serve is still under the normal rules. Okay. So yeah, no paddle head, below the wrist, upward arc, not above the waist. Yeah. Okay. Same thing. The normal serve is still the normal. There's nothing changing about it. So.
And then I heard Tony talking about the 10-second time limit. When does that start?
The moment the ref ends the score calling. So in my mind, I go 5, 4, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's when it starts. Yep.
Okay. And so when rec play, that wouldn't have any bearing at all.
I mean, it's so hard to answer rec play questions because let's say the server calls the score, and if they're taking a long amount of time, I mean, usually the serving team doesn't want to delay the game; they want to win points, right? So, I guess if they're taking too long a time, you could say, "Hey, 10-second fault," but you can't enforce it. So, if you can beat the other person up, just go punch them. So.
I'll just tell Jared that Jared's apt to do it. Susan, control your man there.
I'm telling you. Thank you, guys.
CJ, I got a couple of questions on the Facebook and the YouTube. You ready for me to throw a couple out?
I am. Just hang on one second because I think we did this on the Sling Serve. The rules of the normal serve apply. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, the sling is just basically like your non-paddle hand tossing it up in the air.
Yep.
So once it comes back down and you swing that paddle around, all those things are still in effect.
Oh, we lost you. We lost your audio, Don.
What?
I heard him okay, CJ.
We lost Don.
I heard him okay.
Tony, can you hear me or am I frozen?
You're hear frozen. You. Don.
All right, I'm going to jump in here.
Go.
So I don't know if CJ can hear us or not, but so a couple of questions, Don, on the that came through the YouTubes and the Facebooks. Kind of interesting questions. Some of them we've already answered, so I'm going to skip over those. But one is, can you spin the ball when dropping it?
Okay.
Interesting, right? I don't know.
I
Don't
mean,
propel
as
it, but
long
spin it.
you cannot propel it downward.
Right.
So if you took your finger and forefinger, you know what? I mean, boy, that's if you're spinning it, at least I guess I'm flicking my hand here. That at least my thumb is helping propel it downward. So
yeah, it's probably a propulsion violation, would be my guess, but
interesting.
we'd have to see.
Probably so. It just gravity needs to take its
right.
Its natural course.
It would seem like you'd have to propel one side or the other
one
side
of it. Yes, I agree. Yeah.
So I'm gonna vote on that one, Don. No, you cannot spin the ball. And then the other question is, what is the latest moment? This is interesting. What is the latest moment that the returner, right, the receiving team, can claim they did not see the drop of the ball? How prompt does that have to be, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would say it would be wrong of you or unfair of you to return the ball. Say you return it wide, and then you say, hey, I didn't see the release. I would that's a good point that needs to be pointed out. I would say before you return it, if you didn't see the release, why are you even returning the ball?
Right.
You know,
all right.
To me, you returning the ball, and then let's say you acted like you are still playing. That makes me think, are you trying to game the system here? But that is a good point to bring up.
That's a good question. Don, there's a question that I think is worth answering, but I'm going to answer it. You correct me if I'm wrong. Are they going to regulate the bounciness of the ball? That's already regulated because balls can only bounce a certain height, right? Okay, cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
With that one then.
Hey, Tony, did we talk about this one? Can you bounce again if you didn't like the bounce?
Yeah, we did that one where like you can bounce it 100 times. As long as within 10 seconds.
If you do it in 10 seconds. Yeah.
Within
you
10
can bounce
seconds.
it, stop
Everything's
it, bounce
within 10
it.
seconds.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's kind of that's the part that I'm not crazy about that because I think it's kind of weird that you can just bounce it and then you can hit it out of the air, if you want to. So
well, okay, like tennis, they'll if the server doesn't like their toss, they can toss it again, right? Is that true in tennis, I think?
Yeah, there's
So I guess the same thing. If you don't like your bounce, you can bounce it again. So
yeah, I guess that makes sense. But why are it's kind of a rhetorical question. I don't think we need to answer, but why are the rules changing for pickleball every year? Tennis doesn't change, but I think tennis changes a little bit.
You know what? I do want to answer that. I think it's a good question. The 2 years I've been involved with this, it is to keep down debates. That's the reason I pour months of my life into the change document and all those scenarios is to hopefully keep down debates. Because if somebody says, hey, what happened here? Well, this did happen. Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember reading in the change document that blah, blah, blah. So hopefully the goal is the more of these things we cover and maybe agreed upon an accepted way to handle it, the least amount of debates we have on the court. That's an easy answer for me as to why there's so much info.
I think the other thing too would be like, tennis is 400, 500 years old, and pickleball's, relatively young. So this stuff will bake in, I'm sure.
Let me add this in. I thought there were, 90 some changes last year. To me, I didn't think there were going to be that many this year. I will say that the pro player committee came up with a lot of changes, especially in chapter 13. But I guess on one hand, that's good because they are listening to the players. Your voice is being heard. So,
CJ, I think that covers the gamut of the question. I thought there was some really good questions and it really helped flesh that out. I think this thing is crazy fleshed out. I think it's gonna be fascinating to see in practice, right? The different serves that people come up with, the different ways people, think of gaming the system a little bit. You know what I mean? But it's gonna be fascinating. So,
Tony, if I can.
Go ahead.
If I can ask again, I need to write this down. That one part, the one question you had, and I said, "Ooh, that's interesting." What was that again? I need to.
The one with how long to call the I couldn't see it. How long does the returner have to call? I didn't see it. Which I think if you hit the return right, that's probably acknowledging that you're okay with what happened. Right?
I think
that makes sense to me. But
that's a common yeah. Okay, good. We're good. Keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. CJ, we're ready to roll on to the general rule changes, you think?
Hey, I think so. Oh my gosh, that we thought we would get through 2 sections in 45 minutes. That was 1.
That's a big, to me, I'm going to tell you one thing, CJ. To me, that's the single I know people like the service let thing, and we're going to talk about it, right? But to me, the single biggest thing that's going to change play on the courts every single time we go out there is this drop serve, because people are using it, and people are going to wonder, wait, your paddle didn't go up, your paddle, whatever, and so hopefully, this will help flesh some of that out. So.
And thank you everybody for all of the questions. Hopefully we got a lot of them answered. And if we didn't, we can always do this again at some other point in time. But because I'm sure once we get out there and try it, that's when the questions really will start to come in. So I know Don will come back at another point in time and talk with us if we have some more. See, I told you he would. All right, let's move on, Tony. Why don't you take us into the next section, if you would, please?
All right, Don, let's spend a few minutes on some general rules changes. We're just going to hit these very high level. There's some small changes in there, but that I think that they might change the game. So let's not sleep on those. So one that I thought was interesting was the non-server calling the score. Is that correct, Don?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to be quick, but there's a real good reason to talk about this. I saw on Facebook the other day that the server's partner can call the score. And I remember somebody saying, what a stupid rule. Ugh. And so what that person didn't know is that rule change was submitted by a mute person, okay? And they emailed and said, I'm not sure if I can do this per the rules. It doesn't say I can, doesn't say I can't. And so they thought, okay, let's make it clear and let's, make pickleball inviting to a person with that, issue. And so let's write a rule for it. And then it talked about, okay, if we're going, so that's simple. We can just say the server's partner can call the score. It's simple. Then we thought about, well, what if they call it and then can the server go back halfway through? And then, well, we don't want to start to be confusing. So if the server's partner is going to call the score, they have to do it for the entire game. Now, not the match, but just notify people, but you do need to do it for the entire game rather than that shut the door to the server's partner's calling the score, calling the score. And all of a sudden the server does it trying to get a quickie in. Okay. So that process, people don't know that. I can't write another document of, 400 pages as to where all these rules came from. But that's a good point to bring up, that if you know the background, this person said, I appreciate your efforts in trying to make me feel more welcome into the sport. So that's, good point there. Whoever called it a stupid rule.
Plus, it would seem to me, isn't the whole idea, Don, that the other team can hear the score's called, the score's correct, and we're going to start playing? Does it matter who projects that? It doesn't seem to, but anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Keeping with the score, Don. So the idea about challenging the wrong score, right? So the rule's been changed to where it can be challenged instead of being before the return, be challenged before the third shot. I guess my question is, what happens if I don't challenge the wrong score called before the third shot is hit?
Okay, I do want to take this opportunity to say something that ties into this. If you notice this year, there were all these different rules that were different timings. I even put a chart on Facebook one time before the start of the score call, after the score call, before the start of the service motion, after the service motion, before the serve, all these different timing elements and when to apply certain faults or actions you could or could not do. There was a big consensus and they did it. They moved everything, all of those, to one point in time, the serve of the ball. Okay. Much simpler to remember, much simpler to denote and rule upon. Now, no rule's perfect. I've found this out. Most rules have some good and some bad to them. And I think you take the one that has the most good and you go with that. So yes, I think it's easier for refs and players. Every timing action is moved to the serve of the ball. Now I'm getting into this part. So what that allows is you can't serve until I finish calling the score. What that does mean is, and this was talked about and debated, if a server gets to know my rhythm and my cadence and my timing, okay, then they can probably time their service motion to right as soon as I end calling the score, they're hitting the ball, which is legal, okay? The thing, though, that doesn't give the receiving team much time to decipher, was it the right score with that score? Are they the correct serve? It doesn't give them, if somebody's trying to quick serve, they don't have a lot of time to process. That's why they moved the challenge of a wrong score call. They give you a little more time. Now it's moved to the third shot, okay? So it gives you, we realize there's an opportunity you might be quick served. So we're going to give you a little more time to process it. Now, two of the things I want to mention about this. That window of opportunity for you to challenge a wrong score called, that window shuts after the third shot happens. Why? Because let's say you know the ref called the wrong score, and let's say the ref did call the wrong score, but they didn't catch it. You go ahead and play out the rally, but you're thinking, hey, you know what? Just in case I lose this rally, then I'll pull out my wrong score called card out of my back pocket, and let's have a replay. So the window for you to challenge a wrong score called is shut after the third shot. After that, you should have said something, because you're not going to be allowed to use that as a get out of jail free card. Okay. That's why that happened. So one other aspect on that. So let's say somebody's really trying to be a quick server. I don't think it's going to be as bad as I'm hearing it be. I don't think people want to get known as a quick server, because I think that, I'll just say it, I think that goes to your sportsmanship and integrity, quite frankly. That's my opinion. I have the right to it. But let's say this. We'll just go ahead and throw these rules in here now. This year, you can ask any question, right? You can now ask am I in the right position, right? You could do that in 2016. They took it out in 2018. So some people going, well, why they got to keep changing the rules? Well, it was allowed all the way up until 2018. So here's the thing. When anybody asked a question, there was debate over, well, if they ask this question, if it's the server saying, you've called the score, hey, ref, am I the right server? Just nod your head and keep the 10-second count going. Well, there were some scenarios where they said, well, don't stop play, just keep the count going. Then there were other times when they said, you know what, in this situation, we do need to stop play and, blah, blah, blah. So rather than have some scenarios where you stop play and some where you don't, they said, let's just make it consistent. Anytime somebody asks a question, and question, I mean score, position, correct server, receiver, right? Anytime you ask those questions, the ref will stop play, answer the question, recall the score. Across the board, make it consistent. So if a person is starting to quick serve you, then right before they serve, say, hey, ref, am I the right receiver? The ref has to call time. So you can combat that. If
right, you can do that. So, but what happens if the score's miscalled? The score is actually 3-2-1, and the score is called 6-2-1 or whatever, and you don't say anything before the third shot. Is the score now 6-2-1?
No, you just correct it after the rally. I mean, let's say if the ref calls the wrong score, right? Let's say in reality it's 6-6-1, okay?
Right.
But the ref calls 6-6-2 or 8 or 7-6-1, whatever. If the ref does call the wrong score and the ref misses it and the players don't catch it, after that third shot, you play on. And then after the rally, you might say, hey, ref, did you call the score right? Do we have 6 or 7? Then you just clear it up after that. But after that third shot, you need to just play on.
But why even have that? Right, but we get into this is a debate for another night. I don't even know why we have this rule then, because just deal with it later. But
I can tell you why. Because some people say, I've heard some players say, when the ref calls the wrong score, it gets in my head and it bothers me throughout that entire rally.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
All right, that's silly.
Yeah.
Right,
I would never stop play over wrong score. I would say, hey, ref, we had 6, not 7. Yeah.
You know what? If just play, just keep playing. All right. I was worried. I'm like, why is this rule doesn't make any sense? All right, I got it now.
Because of the anal retention of people. That's why.
Yeah. One thing I want to note, Don, that I thought was really, really nice to put in the rules is, I know that replay is always an option, right? When we're playing a rec play, we can always agree to replay the rally. But I think for some players, particularly new players coming in, they're not really sure whether that's even like a thing, right? And so the fact that, and I wanted to point that out, it's in like the general kind of sportsmanship beginning part of the rules changes. I think it's an awesome thing just to recognize replay. So folks, if you're out there and you get a loggerheads with somebody, just replay the point, enjoy the day. You know what I mean? Don't lose your mind over rec play. So, all right. So CJ, I know you had a couple of things that you wanted to hit, I think, on your list of rules that you were like, let's talk about them, Don. So go CJ.
I did. So these are general rules that we're covering right now. So let's see. Here's what I had. We were talking about the faults subsequent to a dead ball and that it doesn't matter anymore. Can you explain what you mean by that and why that one was added?
I was marking out the questions we've gone through. I'm sorry, CJ, can you say that one more time?
Okay, it was just a clarification on the faults that subsequent to a dead ball, it doesn't matter anymore.
Are we talking about once the ball's dead, you can't call faults? Is that
Right.
what?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. There need to be two reasons there. Some people thought that it was the verbalization of fault or, whatever. It was the verbalization that actually portrayed to the timing of when the ball was dead. It's not when the ref decides to inhale and then pass the air across the vocal cords. So, for example, let's say a ball is hit over to the opponents and it hits the shoulder of the opponent. Okay, so the ref sees it and the ref's inhaling to call, fault. But before he gets the word fault out, the other team who hit the ball, let's say they touch the net. Okay. Some were thinking, well, since the ref didn't say fault until later, then that player who touched the net, that fault happened first. And so it was clarified. No, balls are dead and faults happen the instant they occur, no matter when you happen to vocalize the word fault. So the moment that ball hit my shoulder, the ball is dead. No other faults can happen other than the NBZ faults. So that's why that was meant to clarify. It's not when the person says, the ref says fault.
Okay.
It's when it happens. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And one more too. There was one anomaly. Okay. When the ball's dead, you all, after rally's over, I can touch the net. I can go over to my opponent's court and pick up the ball, right? When the ball's dead, faults don't happen. Now, you can call technical warnings technical fouls, but there was one anomaly. It's when the serving team changed courts, right? And we gave the receiving team time to reposition, and they're repositioning, and then it says, if the server serves, you call a fault on them. Well, we're in a dead ball state of play. I mean, it's a dead ball. We're repositioning. Why did that one fault? Why is it the anomaly? And you still call a fault. So now that doesn't happen. You're not going to call a fault on somebody if they happen to serve because we're in a dead ball. So that's why that change happened. That's
Okay.
one of my favorites, by the way.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, here he comes. Kenneth. Because I had that question on my Kenneth. Come on, unmute yourself, put your camera on.
Yeah, hold on. I was writing. I was
Okay.
writing.
All right. Oh, what happened here? Oh, there we go. Oh,
I got
okay,
a touchpad.
look who's back, Don. You know what's yeah.
Don, get ready, Don. It's coming at you. It's coming at you.
I've got this
Can't
answer.
help you for this one. Sorry, I'm gonna mute myself.
I've got this answer ready.
Yeah, I mean, we got it. Because, I mean, if we look at the dime thing on one side, the contact point's not a tennis ball. We know that this is touched out. So if someone's from an angle, let's say to the right of the ball, they could probably potentially clearly see it's out because the ball is round. However, the person hitting it directly above would say, no, it's in if it's just looking at the line. So I'm kind of confused. I don't know what clearly means as far as clearly seeing it out.
Okay, in a nutshell, the technicality that you just pointed out of whether a ball is in or out, you're exactly right. It's the bottom dime sized or smaller than dimes. It's the bottom part of the physical ball that touches the ground, right? Technically, it's only out if it's 100% out. The problem is that you just pointed out, we can't see the bottom of the ball. That's the problem. So what they are trying to do is, even though technically that's the rule and that's what would stand up in court, so to speak, if we can't see the bottom of it, so they're trying to get everyone to give grace and mercy when it comes to line calls. And basically, unless you see a gap, then don't call it out, even though it very well could be out. I will say this, refereeing pros all the way down to 2.5s, the pros play them. They play the close ones, okay? So the only thing I say is they're trying to get people to say, just don't call it out unless you clearly see a gap in a space. But technically, you brought up a good point. So
I
give grace and mercy.
Well, yeah, and I still get it. I too typically just play it because I want to play the game. It's just a point in the big scheme of things. Like, okay, great, it's just a ball. I'm going to go home, sleep well. It's just I know what it says clearly, and then there's the benefit of the doubt. If you and your teammate disagree with it, then we give that grace over to the opponents, which is awesome. It's just I didn't feel it clearly made it any clearer. I just thought it just muddled it in a different way, and that again is just my opinion of reading it.
And technically the rules didn't change. They took out some wording, then took out that diagram, and then some person from Satan came up with another diagram. I don't know why. I started a GoFundMe to take that off. So
Don, he's actually a decent guy. He reached out to me on Messenger because I was trying to find out.
Oh, did he?
He was
Okay.
just like, I was just trying to. Like, he didn't expect it to like people to publish it and stuff. He was just working on something for himself.
Yeah.
I was like,
We tried so hard to get that picture out, and here it came again. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's no
I
great
get you.
answer to that. Just be lenient. Yeah.
No,
you
thanks.
see like
Thanks.
a river running between it, Kenneth. That's what you call it.
That's
no
it.
river,
You got
no
it.
call Yep.
My favorite's when the opposing team knows that they clearly seen it. So I mean, that's a whole other discussion. But thanks, Don. I really appreciate it. That's all I got.
Well,
Thanks, Kenneth.
Game on.
I think we had one more. Oh, this was kind of, and maybe we skipped this and maybe we talked about it actually. And I'm half paying attention to three different things here. So please forgive me. But we've got, will a not ready signal now be honored up until the point of the serve? Was one of the questions coming in off of Facebook or off of YouTube.
that did not change. So the current rule stands. The moment the ref utters the first syllable of the score is when not ready signals are irrelevant, meaning we don't fault them and we don't honor them. So no changes with that.
Okay.
But you can ask a question. You can ask a question.
I like that. I got lots
Yeah.
of questions.
Yeah.
CJ,
Cool.
I think we got to get into like the crazy, the one that
Okay.
got the world on fire, right?
Okay, so here's what we got, just so everybody knows where we're going. And we have two more sections. We are going to talk about the crazy world on fire thing. And so here it comes. And then we are going to, our last section, we are going to talk about some tournament specific rules, that things that tournament players need to know. And one of the things is we had a little comment in here about rec play, right? And rec play and tournament play, yes, they are a little bit different. Do your best to play by the rules, but there are, as Don kind of alluded to earlier, this is not like you're going to take a person out and beat the heck out of them who's standing on the other side of the net because they're not following rules. It should be a little bit more relaxed situation in a rec play situation. So for those of you who are playing rec play, that's what my recommendation would be. Know the rules, but turn around, line calls, right? Like, I turn around and I look, and if it was close, I look and I said, did you see that? Was it, what did you think? And if they go, yeah, it was good, CJ, I'm like, okay, cool. Right? I mean, that's what the game's all about. Okay. All right, here we go. It rhymes with a wet pet at a vet. Like that.
At sunset, I think, right?
At sunset. It's that new serve thing, right? Another serve thing. All righty. Let us talk about it. Let's talk about the let serve. So we're going to dive right in. Maybe let's start kind of with that overview. Why was this considered, and kind of what was the recommendation on for this change?
Real quick, they had 124 rules and somebody wanted 125, and they said, let's do one more. And they said, that's a joke. Sorry. The impetus for it was there were times when a player would call a let and it was invalid. The ref deemed it invalid, and the ref called a fault on them, and that led to arguments. That was the foundation for removing the let serve.
That makes sense to me. And I got to tell you, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the ruckus is about myself. I'm like, as long as it applies both ways. Men's college tennis doesn't have a let rule anymore. Badminton, I looked this up because I was curious, because badminton, which I view as like the genesis of pickleball, does not have a net court let rule in badminton. The shuttlecock has to get stuck in the net for there to be a let. So I'm just not really seeing the big deal here, Don. It's fine as long as it applies both ways, I think. So what do you think, Don? I mean, it seems like it sounds like the thing that everybody's hair's on fire over this rule change, but I'm just like, it's just a let thing. Let's play pickleball, right?
If you're asking my opinion, I never had that issue happen to me, but other refs have. and it was enough of an issue to look at it, and they decided to remove it. So,
but I'm just saying removing it doesn't to me materially change the game. It's just, if you hit a let, you hit a let. Sometimes it'll fall on the NBZ. Sometimes you get a weird one. You win a point here and there, but I'm thinking, what's the big deal? I don't get it.
I say this a lot on Facebook because that's where I do most of my texting about rules. It's probably just going to be an issue in fake Facebook land. Okay. That's what I say.
Don, you're bringing the truth tonight.
It's just an issue here on Facebook. It's never an issue on the court. So
we'll see. I think we lost all our Facebook viewers just now. All right. So, CJ, I think let's jump into tournament. I want to get
hang on 1 second. Nope, just 1 second, because on the Let's Serve, just wanted to just refresh, because I know we have some new people, and the question came up, is there in the new rules, no more Let's Serves. It used to be that if the ball hit the net cord and it's landed beyond the non-volley zone, that it would be replayed. That's not the case anymore. So.
Right. And that's how that CJ and I and Don, Don's been working on it, but CJ and I have been reading the rule book for like 2 days. So we're like, yeah, exactly. So that rule no longer applies. If it hits the tape now or hits the net, goes over and it's in, you play it. Don't go let. And they made it very specific. If you call let and there is no let, it's a fault on you. So don't be calling lets anymore after January 25th.
And what I would say is this: is somebody who, not this year, but in previous years, plays indoors, right? And you were talking earlier about people who had a hard time hearing and things like that. It can be really difficult in an indoor situation to hear a let anyway.
Especially on those temporary nets, right? They just kind of brush over them.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
I do want to back up for 1 second. It's not a fault if you say the word let.
If you don't play
it's not a automatic fault. And these are in the scenarios, which, like if the ref, I know refs are going to say it out of habit. Heck, I'm already trying to practice not zipping my mouth. So if I happen to say let out of habit, that's a ref error replay. Let's say that as the ball comes over, hits the net, lands in, let's say the receiver says let. I hope the receiver plays it because it's not a dead. Don't stop the ball. There is an extreme case where, let's say the receiver hits it back over, and right as the opponent is about the third shot, let's say the receiver's partner says let, it can very well be a distraction.
Right.
So you very well could get a distraction fault called on you. But just to say the three letters let is not a fault.
Obviously, what I meant was not saying the word, but playing it like a let. Don't play it like a let. Play it. Play the ball. So,
yeah.
CJ, what do you think? You want to jump into the tournament stuff or talk to me?
I think so, because I think we don't have any questions. Did you check our Facebook?
Yeah, I don't think we have any. I think the fire burnt out on Facebook on this one.
Woo! I gotta tell you, because I truly thought the bounce serve thing was going to be, or the not bounce. Sorry, I'm using the wrong word. The drop serve. I really thought that was going to be more controversial, and I saw a little bit of that. But I was surprised at how much I saw about the let serve. Because they've even talked about this in professional tennis for a long time, just in terms of speed of the game of professional tennis and changing that rule in professional tennis, which I think it should be done, but.
Agreed.
Cool.
All right, TJ, let's jump into tournament stuff. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So, I know that Tony and Jill play a lot of tournaments, I need to look at some of my notes here on the tournament rules, but talk a little bit, Don, let's hit just a couple. What do you think are the most, from a player's perspective, right? From the player's perspective, what are the most significant changes that are going to have impact on our tournament players who are listening in tonight?
Okay, I'm going to go through these pretty quick. I had a list of 16 of the top 10. So we've touched on many. I'm just going to go through real quick. Now, when there's an in change at 6, that's considered a timeout. So you can coach now during the in change. It's a normal timeout. There's that one. The Pro Players Committee came up with, along with, there's now going to be a game forfeit. Okay, let's talk about technicals for a second. Right now, the phrase is 3 strikes and you're out, right? Next year, it's going to be 3 strikes, meaning 3 technicals. It's going to be a game forfeit, and then 4 strikes would be a match forfeit. So it's more of a progressive penalty for technicals now, which I think is good. There's also, the tournament directors can also do an ejection and an expel Like you can be expelled from the venue and not even, you got to get out off the site. So there's more levels of penalty for that. A tech foul. Let's talk about that. Technical fouls now, instead of a point to the opponent, it is a point deduct from the team that committed the foul. Here's why that changed. This again was from the Pro Player Committee. They said, you know what, we really don't want a technical foul to end a match, you know. Well, it still can in a very, very rare scenario. Let's say the serving team is serving at 11-10 and the receiving team commits a tech foul. They got a point deduct. Now it's 11-9. The match is over. So it still can cause the match to end, or the game to end, sorry. But it's a very rare scenario that could happen. So now a tech foul is a point deduct unless you have 0, because I don't want to be calling the score 5, -1, 2. Okay. So now if you have 0, it is still a point for the other team. But technical fouls are a deduct, not a point for the other team. There's a verbal warning now for profanity. You know, every ref's level of threshold for profanity is different, and that can be very hard on players when they were in a previous match with a ref and they let a lot of profanity go on, and now the next ref is very sensitive to it. So now the ref is allowed to give a verbal warning issued to everyone that basically says, folks, my threshold of profanity is about to be reached, so watch it. Now, so a verbal warning is allowed now. That doesn't mean that you have to give the verbal before you give the technical warning. Somebody could say MF real loud, and you could do an automatic technical warning, or even maybe even a technical foul, depending on how bad they said it. But the verbal warning is new, and it's just for profanity. You can take timeouts in between games, but you don't have to be on the court right now you have to be on the court to say timeout. In between games, you can say, hey, ref, I want to take one or both of my timeouts because I got to go to the restroom. So you can say that. You don't have to be on the court. The ref will do the 2-minute switch, and if it runs into a timeout, you'll deduct a timeout. You'll tell the opponents. If it runs into the second timeout, then you take their second timeout. Tell the opponents. After that second timeout runs out, though, if you're not back, you say game 2, time in, we're playing ball. You may have a team serving or receiving to an empty court. So there's that. But at least you don't have to be on the court physically to call a timeout. Okay. Players, you know that you can overrule a line call to your own disadvantage. Let's say line judge calls it out. You saw it as in. You can overrule that line judge to your disadvantage. That's a new rule this year. I love it. I think it's the height of the sportsmanship. We've added that. Now, that even includes you can overturn the referee. I like it. I love it because refs are not gods and we still make mistakes. Okay. So let's say ball goes, they call it out. The other team appeals to me. I say, oh, I clearly saw that ball in. The other team can still say, ref, I saw that ball. Sorry, let's see. They call it out. The other team appeals. I say, I saw it in. But then the team that appeals, one player says, no, I clearly saw that ball out. They can overrule the ref if it's to their disadvantage. And so many refs got upset at this. I'm not going to get on the soapbox, but it's not saying that the ref was wrong. It's just saying if you want to overrule to your disadvantage, knock yourself out. So yes, you can overrule a ref if it's to your disadvantage now. Let's see, a couple more. Okay, this could come into play. I never want to know as a ref that I did something, I made an error that ended a match. Okay, let's say it's match point. It's the wrong server. I don't catch it. The server wins, point game match. Okay. They won that match because I didn't do my job. I didn't catch the server error. Okay. Now, I won't waste time with going through the whole debate process. Now, up until the time that score sheet is turned in to the operations desk, if you somehow discover that you clearly made a mistake, let's say the player was videotaping the match, okay, and you clearly saw, oh, crap, I screwed up. Up until the time you turn in the score sheet, you can call those players back to the court and redo that properly, because the game should not end, even though we're human and we make mistakes. It should not end on a ref error, and I'm glad they've given us time to correct that.
Don, can I ask you about that one? Because that one blew
Yes,
my
sir.
mind. My mind. I read that rule change, and my brain like exploded into a million pieces, because I'm just like, I mean, Jill and I played, I don't even know, like 40 something tournaments, right? I would lose my mind if we are done with the match. We've signed the scorecard, because remember, we both signed the darn scorecard, right? And just like in golf, CJ. So we've signed the little thing, right? And we're done. And I'm off doing, taking my shoes off and whatever. And all of a sudden the ref comes to me and says, you know what? They say that Joe was serving. And I'm like, no, I was serving. And now we're getting into this fight like 5 minutes after the match. I lost my mind when I read that rule, Don. I gotta be honest with you. And if you tell me I got to go back on the court and play again, I mean, I'm going to be like, really? And then even the video thing, because is there video replay now? I'm like, no, man. I'm like, match is over. I'm like, sorry, there's a mistake. There's a mistake. But that blew my mind. I got to tell you, that's my view on it. So
I would say two answers to that. The overriding goal was to get the call right. That was the overriding goal. I know me personally as a ref, I would lose sleep at night knowing that I messed up and cost somebody the match. So they did. And as far as debate, if I wasn't sure, if I said, well, wait, I'd almost have to see a video. I'd have to see a video.
But doesn't that bring a video replay then? Now you're like, then it's like, I don't like the call. Hey, wait, my mom was videoing, Don, let me show you the out ball. If you want to get, it just kind of slippery slope. And I'm just like, no, man, the game's over.
Yeah, that was all debated. Judgment calls, things like that.
Don't be doing it to me, Don, because I will lose my SHIT. And I'm like, what is going on? Are you crazy? I'm like, no way.
I would say, Tony, do you want to win the game that way on my error?
No, I wanted the game. No, because obviously there's a conversation about it. You know what I mean? I'm not agreeing. Yeah. I'm saying, no, that's not what happened. But anyway, and the other one, explain this to me, Don, so I understand it. So, and I understand the whole thing that you're saying about like it's a dead ball thing. But if I'm correct, back in when I used to play, like if you served before the score was called, it's a fault, right? But now what I'm understanding is I can go back there, like no score's been called. I just serve and it's like, hey, don't do that anymore. Okay, whatever. But there's no problem with that, right?
And let's be specific about that. When a ref calls time, let's say time, let's say a serving team switches courts, right? We got to give the receiving team time to readjust. Mm-hmm. The ball's dead. I mean, we're in a dead ball play. Why did the one rule that says if the server happens to serve while we're switching places, you call a fault on them? Why did that one have its own special clause to call a fault? It was the outlier. So they made it consistent. No faults can happen other than NVZ, right? No faults can happen or be called when we're in a dead ball. So in this situation, let's say they switch service courts. I say, time. I'm going to give the receiving team time to readjust, and I'll recall the score. If the server happens to serve the ball, I say, hang on, give the ball back. I'll recall the score. It's not a fault.
My suggestion to you, and this is, again, having played a lot of tournaments, not all players are going to do this, but I've played with a fair share of players that are they're going to mess with that rule, and they're going to mess with the other three that have to do with like the calls that I can make before the serve is hit, right? Because it used to be like, I know you're absolutely right. From referees, it's kind of a nightmare. You have to like, when is this and when is that? But the fact that like right before the server hits the ball, I can say timeout. I can say check the ball for cracks, or I can say I didn't like the last call, right? So the server's back there, they drop the ball or whatever they're doing, and they get ready to hit it, and I'm like, ref, check the ball. I mean, and there's no there's no limit on how many I can do that. I mean, there's like a weird I know there's like a weird if I appeal too much or something, but yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, I can name players that are going to just like go nuts with that stuff, and they're just going to keep hitting it. But anyway, so
that's a good point. And if they do, the ref can give them a technical warning for unsportsmanlike conduct. If I sense that a person's constantly doing that, and I think, okay, you're just trying to frustrate the server now, I can call a technical warning for unsportsmanlike conduct.
All right.
So,
I hope you're my ref. As long as you don't call the match, maybe go back to play after the match is over.
we'll say over the PA, Tony, please come back to the court. You really don't want to win
I'm
that
in
way,
my
do
car.
you?
I'm leaving. So.
Oh, he's going to guilt you into that. You know that.
I hear that.
Okay, so let's go back. Let's talk just a little bit about the timeouts, right? So you can call timeouts before the service hit, but not the service motion. That's a change, right?
Service motion has nothing to do with anything next year.
Okay.
So yes, you can call timeout. They moved everything to the serve of the ball. You can say the "t" of timeout. If I, as a ref, hear the "t" of timeout before I hear the pop of the ball, they've called a timeout. Yep.
Yes, all those other rules, CJ, before the service motion starts or before the score is called, all that's gone.
Yeah,
it's basically
right.
that pop. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Cool.
I mean, I'm curious to see how it plays out. So,
cool.
Can I answer this one about the 3 strikes?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a quick, easy way to remember this year.
Oh, wait.
Sorry.
Before you answer it,
Okay.
you have to say what is the question you are answering, because you see the question, but not everybody else
okay.
does.
Good. Oh, thank you. That's why you're the pro right there. So you think I would know that though. Dale says, please explain the 3 strike situation again. Okay, great question. If you basically think of technicals and technical fouls and warnings as strikes, like in baseball, okay? A technical warning is a strike, all right? A technical foul, right? A full-blown technical foul is, in essence, 2 strikes. So let's say you had a technical foul, a technical warning for profanity, and then you got a technical foul for throwing the paddle. Well, that's 1 strike, and then plus 2 strikes for the tech foul. That's 3 strikes. The match was forfeited, okay? So the easy way to remember that was 3 strikes and you're out, okay? Now this year, it's 3 strikes and the game is over. And then if you happen to commit another strike, 4 strikes during the match is over. So it's 3 strikes, the game is over. 4 strikes, the match is over. And the strike is a individual technical. Although a technical foul counts as 2 strikes, if that helps.
Don, you got a thanks very good from Dale. That there's no higher. That's like a Nobel Prize right there.
I'm telling you.
You killed it.
So Tony, have you got any other questions right now? Because I know we still have a couple questions left, both from our group as well as some of the Facebook and.
No, I just saw the one. I'm good, Don. I really appreciate the explanation of the tournament. We're gonna get into some questions, but no, I'm good to you. Thanks.
Okay, so we got a few more questions. So if everybody who's on the Zoom wants to come back in, if you want to turn your cameras on, go ahead and turn your cameras on. You should be able to do that. And we'll have you raise your hand if you have a question. In the meantime, Don, can you just go one more clarification? Because I think I kind of know the answer to this, but I don't want to butcher it. We've been having some questions both on Facebook and YouTube about the Sling Serve. There's nothing in the rule book about the Sling Serve, right? It's just removing the rule or the wording around the carry. So can you re-explain that one more time, please?
Yeah, yes, and thank you for doing that. Okay, so the ball is live when? It's when the ref starts to call the score, okay? That was intentional last year. So when the ball is live, all these faults come into play. And if I'll take just a second here. Last year when they're saying, last year we had an end. We knew when the rally was over, okay? But we didn't know when the ball became live again, right? So they said, okay, let's give a bookend. We know when it's over. Let's know when we start. Well, the first thought was, okay, let's make it the serve of the ball. Okay, the ball's not live till the serve is hit. Well, if the ball's not live, then that opens the door for you can commit faults, right? You could yell at the server when they serve, when they're starting a service motion, because it's a distraction, but the ball wasn't live. You could grab the net as they're starting their service motion. So you grab the net and shake it. The ball's not live, so you can touch the net. And let's say you wiggle the net and the ball hits the net and it falls in for a fault. So they said, well, no. Let's move it to the start of the score calling. That way you can't do distractions. You can't touch the net. Everything's in play. There was a couple of probably overlooks or nuances. I don't need to get into one. So when the ball is live, there's a reason they put it to the start of the score call. All right. So the ref starts to call the score. The ball is live. you can't intentionally, deliberately is a better word. I hate the word intentional because I can't tell what a player's thinking. You can't deliberately keep that ball on the face of the paddle to play the game. It needs to be hit, popped. Now, there's accidents. If you're falling and stumbling and you happen to sling your arm and the ball stays on the paddle face, that's not deliberate. That's an accident. That's okay. But anytime you keep the ball on the face of the paddle for longer than a pop instant, that's an illegal carry. Okay. So this person came out with this serve because they didn't want to touch the ball. They'd put the ball on their paddle. Let's say the ref calls the score. They sling it up a good 2 feet of distance with that ball intentionally, deliberately on the face of the paddle. They'd sling it up in the air. It comes back down. They do their normal serve. That was an illegal carry because the ball is live when the ref called the score. Okay. So several times on Facebook going, is this legal? I'm just trying to do it to not touch the ball. Well, okay, I understand, but technically by the rules, it's illegal. It's an illegal carry. So to allow this, all they had to do was, in the fault that talks about illegal carries, all they had to do was say, add the words at the beginning of the fault, after the serve. Players will not deliberately keep the ball on the face of the paddle. So meaning before the serve now, you can keep the ball on the face of the paddle and do your sling Covert serve, and it's not a fault. That's the full-blown story to that.
Okay, that's the story, and we're sticking to it. A couple of things before we have some more questions. So in here, in the Zoom group, if you have a question, you know where the raise your hand is. So if you don't mind raising up your hand, and we'll get down to answer your questions. Just a couple of things for those of you who are still watching on Facebook as well as on YouTube. We've got a couple of links for you. Just before this started, Don sent me the final going to the printer version of the rules. The rule changes. Those are going to, the ladies are putting those into the chats in both Facebook and YouTube. So those are in there. For those of you who are VIP members, those will be in the community a little bit later this evening, as well as a replay of this will be in the digital library within the next day or two. And then everyone who's on YouTube and Facebook, we have a special for you. If you want to play your best pickleball in 2021, we have 7 awesome tips, and the ladies are putting a link to that as well. Okay, so let's see. Have we got somebody who has a question inside? I don't see any hands up right now unless I'm missing something. And if you don't have your hand up, that's okay. If you want to unmute yourself. Okay, we got Tony. Hello, Tony. How are you? I like the Christmas background.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. So what I'd love to see is some videos of the new kind of serves, of the drop serve and the sling serve, or whatever you're calling it, the Covert Serve. So maybe you could put some videos of that. So you doing those new serves.
We could do that. I've saved that video to my place. Maybe I could send it to CJ, and it's on Facebook. It's just basically a lady. She has the ball on her paddle face down near her waist. It's level. She just slings it up in the air. The ball goes 8-10 feet high. As it's coming back down, she serves it. That's basically it.
Okay, how about
helps?
Hey, hang on one second. Hey, Tony, you got a court like 10 feet away.
Tomorrow morning, I'm making both videos right there. Tomorrow morning, you're gonna have it, Tony. You ask, we deliver. Boom.
Where do you live?
Clearwater, where I live.
Okay, so you're gonna put it on the
out there in the ether nets. Yeah.
We'll put it up in the community is where we'll put it. So that's where you will go into the community. You will find it in the community sometime tomorrow.
Okay. So let me ask you just right this minute. On that drop serve, does it have to bounce? So you put your hand way up in the air, you drop it. Does it have to bounce, or can you hit it on the way down?
If let's just say you raised your hand, you let it drop, and you serve normal, that's a normal serve, right?
Okay.
Just watch out. Then the paddle, wrist, upward arc, all that stuff still comes into play. That's just a normal serve like you've always served.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's the bounce that says we don't care what you do with your arm now.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay. Okay, so because some people complain that I don't serve it correctly, so I definitely want to bounce it so that they can't fuss with me about where my hand and my wrist and all of that stuff.
Tony, we're going to get you a drop serve that's going to kill those people.
And give them a condescending look too.
That's
Just
right.
look at them like, condescending.
Just, you're going to practice it. And on the 25th, you're going to go out there and just go, wham. It's going to be awesome.
Great. Thank you.
And by the way, we're getting called on the carpet by Barry, and he's right. It's a drop serve, not a bounce serve. A bounce implies sending it down and popping back up. Gerard.
Wait a minute. Why is he calling you on? Yeah, it's
because
drop,
you can't.
It's a drop.
Like,
you can't bounce.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to drop it, but it doesn't have. It has to bounce.
Yes.
Right.
Well, yes. I mean, that's the effect, but it's not like bouncing a basketball.
Right.
Right.
It's not like if I'm going to bounce something, I do it with energy.
Yeah, I got you.
I mean, it's called the provisional drop serve. That's the title in the rule book.
Yeah.
Ooh, fancy. It has a fancy name to it. Okay, go ahead, Gerard. I saw you unmute yourself.
The
Rule 4A8, if you're interested.
the sling serve, and when it's coming back down, is there any paddle rules? Is there any height rules? Or is it all open? I can hit it at my shoulder or at my ankle. What's the story?
Okay, if you want to use your paddle to sling that ball up, think of it. It's going to be the same as you taking your ball, how you would normally serve. Maybe you toss it up in the air. Okay. All the factors still apply because you're not letting the ball bounce. So all the factors, just like a normal serve, still apply. Basically, I don't want to make this too confusing, but instead of us making you toss the ball up in your hand, you can now take your paddle and sling it up.
Okay.
That's the real big difference. But other than that, paddle wrist, upward arc, not above the waist, all those things still apply unless you choose to do the the drop serve. So here's a good question. Here's a good quiz for everyone. Let's say a person has the ball on their paddle. They sling it up in the air. The ball falls and bounces on the ground, and then they serve. Would that be legal?
No.
No, because they propelled it upwards. They performed the drop serve, but they propelled it upwards. So basically, the sling serve is the same as you just tossing the ball up with your, say, left hand if you're right-handed. So that's all it is. And then all the factors, we're still normal.
So for somebody who was asking on Facebook, that's the reason why you can't serve overhand. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's the reasoning. So hopefully we got that all cleared up. I know there was a big discussion going on Facebook about, well, then I can serve overhead. No, you can't. Well, you can. It's just not going to count.
Well, let's say Jeffrey Warnick, real tall, drops the ball. He's going to do a drop serve, and then he crouches. He lays on the ground, and then he raises his hand up and does. I mean, yeah, that way, you can serve overhand. But I mean, it's not illegal because the only thing that matters on the drop serve is what? Feet placement. It's the only thing that matters. So,
I'd like to see that. By the way,
it'll be in the video tomorrow. I'm gonna have it on the video tomorrow.
You're gonna add it in the video.
For Tony. Tony said she wants to see it, so I'm gonna do it.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna watch Tony drop down on the ground. Yep. Oh, I can't wait to see that one. We did Ted had another question. Is that on the normal serve? On a normal serve? Okay, so he's talking about the normal serve. Can you spin the ball on the toss?
There's no rule saying you can't. So on the normal serve, what matters, right? Feet placement at the moment of contact, and then the 3 criteria. So nothing says you can't spin the ball on the toss on the normal serve. So, yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Has anybody else, if anyone else in our community has a question, it's your time to come forward because I think we're starting to tie this down. If anyone on YouTube or Facebook has a question, make sure that you get them in your comments right now, and we'll try and get those answered before we finish up. Don't forget that new rules change document. If you've seen it, it wasn't the finished one. The finished one just came out about 10 minutes ago, and you can get it from the link that the ladies are putting in. Oh, guess who's back? Come on, Kenneth. All right, unmute yourself.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I don't know, Don, if you have the document in front of you. I've got the old one, but it's the fault rules. change number 54, 7B. It's probably easier if you read it or I can read it out loud. But scenario A confuses me about, now player B is attempting an Ernie and gets called for a fault because the ball's abnormally spinning for a long time on top of the net. So I'm not sure how that person broke the plane. Is it because the paddle, the ball is spinning right here on the, say around the net and the ball is spinning, but if I hit it from the, this side over here while it's spinning, so long as my paddle doesn't break the plane, isn't that legit? Or is we saying that's a fault now?
On that one, it wasn't necessarily that the player hit the ball, because if it's spinning on the middle of the net, what that scenario was this. Some people think that a ball that, let's say I hit it, happens to hit the top of the net, and then it falls down on my side. Some people think that the ball is dead when it hit the net, and you'd have to back up the tape, and didn't go over. The ball's not dead when it hits the net. It's specifically dead when it falls and hits the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And this very close happened to me in Utah. Player hits the ball, spins on the top of the net near the sideline. It's spinning. If you slow it down, it's maybe for a second and a half. The player was maybe going to go for an Ernie. Okay. So they go for an Ernie. They cross the plane of the net while the ball is still spinning. And then it eventually falls down on the hitting team side of the net. Okay. So who committed the fault there? The team that hit the ball basically into the net, or the person that crossed the plane? The ball was still live, right, while it was spinning, right? So the ball was still live when the opponent crossed the plane of the net. So the person who crossed the plane committed the fault because the ball was still live and not dead yet, even though it eventually fell down on the hitter's side, right? The ball was still live when that player who went for an Ernie, their leg, crossed the plane of the net. And the point about that scenario is, if some people says, well, the ball was dead when it hit the net. No, it's not. It's dead when it finally eventually descends 36 inches and hits the ground. So when that player crossed the plane of the net, which is a crossing the plane fault while the ball is still in play, they committed a fault just before the ball became dead, hitting the ground. So fault on the player crossing the plane. It's a scenario that points out why it's important for referees to know the timing of when the ball is dead. It's not when it hits the net. It's when it falls and dink, hits the ground. Mm-hmm. That's that whole scenario in 7B.
So let's say player B in this instance, is going to hit the ball that's spinning on the net that was struck by team A.
Okay.
If they hit it while it's spinning there on their side of the net and it goes over, and then they break the plane because, let's say, the paddle's out in front of them and they don't break the net plane, is that then a point for that team because team A can't get to it?
Hold your ball up again right on the net there. So let's say your paddle is the net and the ball's spinning, okay? Yep. And you hit the ball only on your, let's say, your left-hand side. You hit the ball there.
Yep.
And you don't touch the net, right? Yeah, you've hit the ball and your body hasn't crossed the plane, right? You're on your side of the net. Okay, you have hit the ball on your side of the net and you didn't hit the net and you didn't cross the plane. That's a legal shot. You can do that legally.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Just don't touch the net, so.
Got it.
Yeah, but if your body had crossed the plane, that's a fault.
Mm-hmm.
So, if your body had crossed the plane before you touched the ball, put it that way. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You can't cross that plane of the net until you contact the ball.
Okay, got it. Thanks. Yep. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple clarifications we have coming in from our other, from YouTube and Facebook. And by the way, if anybody in VIP has a question, go ahead and please raise your hand and we'll get to you next. Alternate. So here's the thing on the serve. You have one serve or the other serve. They have two different sets of rules with it, right? You don't have to do a bounce serve. You don't have to do it the way we've been serving. It's just one or the other. So that's, hopefully that clears up that word alternate. That's what it means. one more on the serve, and then we have another one. Is it a fault if you swing and miss the drop serve?
No,
So you get to drop again.
drop again. As long as you, once the ref calls a score, you got 10 seconds to eventually hit that ball to start the rally.
Okay.
As long as feet placement and all that. But no, you can.
Okay.
Anything's fine. Yeah.
Did somebody wants to know, this is over on YouTube, did the 6-line judge concept get traction?
Yes, and it's going to come out in an appendix. There's going to be 2 styles of line judging next year. Active, which is the way line judges normally work. They make the line calls. Okay. Then passive. That's what we did the championship match at the PBA Vegas Championship, which the players loved and the line judges loved it, and I love it to death. The line judges are there. Players still make the calls on their side of the net, but the team can appeal to the line judge or appeal to the ref, and the ref goes to the line judge, and the line judge can overrule if they clearly saw it, overrule. I love it. 10 seconds here. It takes the pressure off of players. I'm not name dropping, but Simone just was going on and on about it. How, of course, she makes calls with integrity, but she can miss them. She can make a wrong call. The fact that they now have line judges who are looking directly down at the line, much better than a referee who's looking perpendicular to a line. Yes, Simone will make the call, but they can always appeal to the line judge. And if she's wrong, she's wrong. So she said it took the pressure off me. I felt like I could make the calls I felt like I should make, but if I'm wrong, so be it. There's line judges there. I love it. We're going to do the passive line judges every gold medal match.
Cool.
So,
great.
Sorry. Yep.
So we have a question from inside. Kevin, if you want to go ahead and ask your question, just unmute yourself.
Yeah.
There we go.
Just a clarification, if on a regular serve, if we do our serve and we miss it, we cannot serve it. We cannot try and serve again. Is that correct?
Of course. No, of course you can. Yeah. You've got 10 seconds to light that rocket and get it off the launch pad.
Yeah. So a regular serve, if I miss it, I can just pick it up and go again.
Let's say I toss it in the air, swing, and I don't hit it. It bounces. It starts to roll a little bit. I pick it up and grab it. I can toss that ball again and serve as long as I don't run out of 10 seconds.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And what you're probably saying is they removed the rule in 2020, the rule that said it's a fault if the server misses the ball while trying to hit it. They couldn't come up with a good definition of what it meant to miss the ball when trying to hit it. I always took that as if you swing and you go past the front of the ball, you've missed it when you were trying to hit it. They couldn't come up with a good definition, so they said, let's just take it out. So now you can miss it as many times as you want, as long as you serve within 10 seconds.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
I think we got all of our questions in our community. We still got a few more coming in from both Facebook and YouTube. Want to know how waste disputes are going to be settled. So I take it that's no different than they've been in the past, right? Because it's still the same rule.
And it's a judgment call by the referee. And my principle as a referee, I'm not going to get bent out of shape on something that where a 1/1,000,000th of an inch can make a difference. They've got to be blatantly illegal for me and everyone in the audience and everyone on Facebook and the internet to say, oh, that was blatantly illegal. They've got to be blatantly illegal for me to call them. I'm not going to get bent out of shape because the rules. Okay. If you can see my pen, all right. Straight up, let's say straight up is 90 degrees, right? That's upward. Well, if I start to turn it, that's 80 degrees. That's still upward. 45 degrees is still upward. Technically, 0.00001 degrees upward is still upward arc. Now, I'm not going to get bent out of shape while trying to determine whether something's perfectly level or has 1/1,000,000th of a degree upward arc. They got to be blatant for me to call them. So, sorry, soapbox there. Sorry.
I know you and I have had a very interesting discussion about belly buttons.
Yeah.
Gerard, you
concerning pickleball. Concerning
pickleball.
pickleball.
Gerard, you had a question. You're muted. Take yourself off mute.
Okay. In Kenneth's discussion about hitting that ball with the spin on top of the net, what if the paddle crosses the plane of the net in the follow-through if you hit that ball?
Oh, okay. So nothing about your paddle, body, arm, watch, hat can cross the plane of that net before you contact the ball. Okay. So if the ball has crossed over to your side, and I realize some people want to debate, what if it's in the very center? Well, at least part of that ball is crossed over. Yeah. So if that ball is crossed to your side, once you hit it, then you can cross the plane legally. Okay. Yeah. Once you hit it, just don't touch the net, the opponent's court, or the opponent. Okay. But once you hit, and that makes common sense. Let's say you're running for an ATP. You're running towards the net. You hit an ATP and your momentum, you hit it on your side of the net plane, your momentum is going to take you past the plane. That's totally understandable and acceptable. Okay. But you have to hit the ball before you cross the plane. Okay. Basically, some people don't like that rule. And I say, look, you stay on your side of the sandbox to play this game, and they'll stay on their side of the sandbox to play the game. So, yeah.
Okay, I got cool thing. All right, you got your question answered. Right, Gerard? All right. Well, he's gone, so he must have. One more clarification. We're going back to a question from Facebook. Hang on a second. I lost it. Confused about the sling serve. Is a double hitting okay as long as the paddle is moving forward?
Well, now we're talking about something else, okay? A double hit is different than an illegal carry. They used to be combined in the same wording back before 2018. A double hit, an illegal double hit would be this. Let's say the ball comes over. It bounces off my paddle out of reactionary. It bounces straight up. Then I decide to go ahead and play the ball and hit it. That's a double hit. You can't do that. Okay. You can do a double hit if it's those words are what? Single motion, continuous, single stroke, something like that. Let's say you're swinging out a ball. Okay. It happens to hit the paddle handle, right? And you're flicking your wrist. It hits the paddle handle. And then it also happens to hit at the very end of your paddle. And you hear that little dink, dink. Okay, you've hit the ball twice, but that's in a single direction, continuous motion stroke. Those double hits in that scenario are legal, which is different than an illegal carry. An illegal carry is that ball staying on the paddle face longer than an instant, so to speak. So you can't intentionally hit the ball twice, double hit, although you can do it accidentally. But they are two separate rules, even though sometimes they get confused and crossed over. I'll say this. The words continuous single direction stroke are in Rule 11A, which is double hits. Those words are nothing and have nothing to do with an illegal carry, even though most people conflate them together. So.
Did you just say continuous directional something?
What is it? Continuous single direction stroke. I think that's the words
Man,
used
that
in
is
11A.
A mouthful. I like that. That's like SAT right there. I like it. All right.
I'll tell you. So it looks like we have everybody in the community has got their questions answered. If you are part of VI Pickleball community, this replay will be up for you in the next couple of days. The change document will be in the community tonight. If you are not, if you are watching on YouTube and you want some more information about the community as well as some tips for 2021, go to wearepickleball.com. For the change document, the ladies are putting up a bit.ly link in the chats on both YouTube and Facebook as well. So help yourself to that change document. That's the version that's going to the printers. So that's the latest and the greatest. Hey, so Don, once we've had a chance to get out and play, can we have you back after the first of the year to talk to all the VIP members? Because I'm going to guess I'm seeing everybody going, yeah, I'm going to have some questions.
I love talking about rules.
I'm going to send him my video tomorrow and be like, Don, did I hit it? Did I get it? Because Tony's going to be upset if that video is not right. Tony will be like, you let me down, Tony. Tony with a Y.
So and you are going to send the one the Jeff Warnick one that he was talking about, right?
I'm gonna do my
get
best.
down on the court and still hit it within 10.
I'm gonna try.
Within 10 seconds. I'd like to see you do that, because then you
Me
got to
too.
get up to hit the third shot. So that's the
I might have to take out the
challenge.
Onyx Pure 2 for that one. Go with the Onyx Pure 2 ball, see if it bounces up a little more for me.
Yeah, now everybody's going to want to change balls, right? Nobody wants the dead ball anymore. Let's get the lively balls out. Oh, and see what you started, Don?
I just typed the change document. That's all I did. So
Well, hey, I tell you, everybody here at VIP Pickleball, myself, Tony, everybody who joined us tonight, we'd really like to thank you so much for all the work you do, not just coming here to talk to us tonight, but that 173, was that it?
well, I'm going to count this in now because this was
Okay.
part of the rules. So 175 now. So,
Okay,
yeah.
you got it. So 175. So 175 hours. And thank you. I always forget your wife's name. What's your wife's name?
Candace.
That's not supposed to be a hard question.
We might have to edit that out.
I thought
TJ.
you were saying anniversary. I thought you were saying anniversary. Sorry, I did.
We're gonna edit that, because all I was gonna say was, oh my goodness, you got us laughing. We're gonna thank you, Candace. Thank you, Candace. We appreciate that and letting you all you do. Thanks to everybody who's been on YouTube and Facebook. We hope you have found this to be valuable. For all of our VIP members, we have a webinar coming up on the 22nd. You know where to find your information. It's inside of your community, and we'll be talking to all of you soon. Thank you again.
Don, you're
I'm
the best.
sad this is over. I'm sad. I'm
Me
so
too.
sad when these are over. I love talking about rules.
Don, we love you, man.
We
Love y'all.
you.
Thank you
Stay
very much.
safe. Happy holidays, Don. Happy holidays.